Hey everyone, I am Lacey Ferguson, Mentor Program Coordinator here at the Douglas ESD, and today I'm sharing with you a webinar on how to make it to winter break. It's a beginning educator resource provided by the Douglas ESD. So we'll go ahead and jump in. Our team of mentors came together and I posed the question, what would be the advice that you would give a new teacher to get from the Thanksgiving break to winter break during that disillusionment phase of teaching when things can seem kind of difficult and you're just anxious maybe for a break and a little bit of time to recoup and rest. So our team of mentors came together and we brainstormed the advice that we thought would be most important for beginning teachers. And I've compiled it today in a short presentation, and I'm pre-recording this webinar so that I can get it out to teachers and you guys can watch it at your convenience. It's something that's going to be short enough that I hope you can watch in a prep or after school and take away some great things from it. So I know that we have a really diverse group of teachers. We have PE, we have ag, we have second grade, SPED. We have a large sampling of teachers. And so I've tried to include content that spans all of those as much as possible. So I'm hoping that there's a little takeaway in here for each person. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. So one of the first things that came up with our mentor team is in terms of giving advice and encouragement on getting to Christmas break or winter break. Relationship building can be really key. Being mindful of how important relationships are in the classroom is one step toward keeping the right perspective leading up to winter break. One thought that came up in our mentor brainstorm is the possibility that some students could inwardly be dreading the winter break and going home and being home for 2 weeks. Students that come from difficult home situations where there's not a lot of consistency or structure or even resources could be really stressed out about the break and the extra time at home away from school. Some students, school is their refuge and it's their safe place and where they have a break from the difficulty of their home situation. And so just thinking about this might be a root issue of behavior or other problems that a student is having. So like I said, just thinking about this can be really valuable in terms of connecting with your students, and relationship building can be a huge step in helping students through this anxiety. So taking time to connect with students can really reap huge rewards, and this might give you an I'm making an impact moment that could boost your spirits when you need it the most. So I'm sure that a lot of you guys have great resources already that you're using to build relationships, but this one was kind of neat. I wanted to share.
Daily, long time no see. Miss Kayla. I use a technique called Thomas at the Door to greet my students in a way that is personal, quick, and efficient. I do it at the door because it helps build that relationship with each student individually without having to go from desk to desk to desk. It's T for touch. Since touch is not comfortable for everybody, I give them the option of either a high five, a handshake, a hug, or a fist bump. U is for use their name. What's up, Tony? They know that I know who they are. And they're not just some random kid out of my long list of students. When you make eye contact with them, you show that you truly care about what they're saying or that they're there. And that's just for smile, because smiling is a good way to start off your day. It sets you up for a positive lesson. Thomas at the Door is a way for me to build relationships with my students and a way for them to be welcomed in my classroom every day.
All right, so that's just one strategy. Like I said, I'm sure that you guys all have a lot that you're using, and just keeping in mind leading up to the holidays that for some they are full of joy and excitement and fun, and for some holidays can be really, really hard. So just keeping that perspective when you're working with your students and being sensitive to that might help you build some relationships and offer some comfort that can help get you through to the winter break. So there's one idea. Another idea that came up in our mentor brainstorm session is just the idea of boosting the level of student engagement as much as possible during the long stretches leading up to a break. So student engagement or student activities that are high in engagement can help keep students' attention throughout challenging seasons. And you could consider team-based activities or activities that promote high levels of engagement. We brainstormed a few that we wanted to share with you, but we encourage you to reach out and talk to your colleagues and see what they're doing as well. There's lots of great ideas out there for student engagement, so we'll just share a few. I noticed, you'll notice that that last video was a 60-second strategy clip from YouTube. I just stumbled across these and they are really cool. So I'm going to take us there right now, and this should be a whole list of 60-second strategies that you could scan and look at. A lot of them have to do with student engagement, and they take like a concept, and in 60 seconds they give you a short preview. And in the description of the videos, there's usually more resources on that technique or on that strategy. So the one that I wanted to show was the snowball toss. This one was really cool. It kind of ties into the relationship building as well for students that might be experiencing some stress or something like that. So,
gentlemen, what have we learned about stress from the week's discussion? Today we did an activity in my classroom where we talked about stress. We're going to do like the snowball activity, okay? So I'm trying to get them to know how to identify stress and then know how to be able to adapt and cope and work with that. Gentlemen, go ahead and take 1 minute to finish up. After they wrote down their stress, they balled up a paper. I asked them, what should you do with stress? And they said, get rid of it. So let's get rid of the stress. And we got a snowball fight. You ready? Go. The idea is that we're moving around. We're able to, like, have fun, laugh, scream, be loud, and then have that discussion about stress. Everybody get a snowball. Afterwards, they unwrapped the snowball and they read what their peer was stressed about. Who'd like to begin?
I learned that stress can cause many things like depression.
They got up, it was interactive, and it was hands-on. They were able to have a conversation with each other about things that they were dealing with.
I haven't felt good about myself in such a long time.
Which is promoting interpersonal skills and learning during the process.
So that was one of those 60-second strategies. There's a lot of really fun ones on here. I'll take us back to that list so that you guys can kind of see what the sampling of those is. I had a little thought that they might be 60-second strategies, but I might get lost on YouTube for like half an hour or something. So hopefully these are just short little things that you can use in the classroom without getting too tied up and going down rabbit holes. So one other one that I wanted to show you was the cooperative learning roles. This is another way to boost engagement.
In today's lesson, we're going to take a look at more applications of exponential functions. Have a quick peek at our roles and our groups.
Every day in class, we are assigned a table group. We get to work with a bunch of different people.
Go ahead and randomize you guys here.
And you're assigned roles. The scribe is the person who's writing down what you're thinking. The speaker is the one who's presenting your information. The inquirer is someone going up to our teacher whenever your group has a question. And then the manager, they're in charge of the materials and making sure that everyone is on task. And then we need a writing key at the top. Our teacher is walking around the room and seeing how we're collaborating.
Nice.
And then at the end, he calls on different groups. The simple interest had more money in the account.
Yeah.
When we're doing assigned roles, everyone is involved in answering a problem. That definitely helps making sure that you can grasp concepts.
So those were just two tools that I found on the 60-second strategies that were really great. I really love how short they are and just how clear the concepts are. I think that if you were going to introduce a strategy like that, you could probably even show the video to your students and let them see an example of what it's looking like pulled all together. Those cooperative learning roles would be great if you're doing, any sort of lesson, but if you had kind of like some higher level problem solving questions or an activity where the kids could work together and answer a problem, I think that those roles are very simple and easy to execute. So hopefully those are some resources that you can use easily and grab. Another one that I wanted to show you guys is Jeopardy review games. This is one that I actually used a lot when I was teaching 6th grade self-contained. So these Jeopardy labs, it's a really simple website. You don't even have to log in to create a Jeopardy game. If you create a Jeopardy game, the only thing that you need to make sure that you remember is start like a Google document or something and save your links, because the only way, unless you sign up for an account, the only way to create and save a a Jeopardy link is to copy and paste it, save the link yourself, and then you can just assign any password to that link. It's super user-friendly, very intuitive. I was going to show an example Jeopardy game that I had used with my students when I was teaching 6th grade. This was a math review game that I used, and my students at the time were sitting in table groups, and so I probably would have done 6 teams. And I've done this a couple different ways. Sometimes I would give every student in my class a whiteboard, and as the question is posed in the Jeopardy game, they would solve and answer the problem on their whiteboard. And then if every student has their own whiteboard or their own piece of scratch paper or whatever, the nice thing about that is they can hold up the whiteboard to reveal their answer, and I can, as a teacher, do a quick scan, and it's just a quick formative assessment of I can look around and see which students have the answer. So if you want to do like an individual approach, you can just choose one team, and then every student is on a team for themselves. Another option is making every table group a team. And again, students can each have their own whiteboard to like solve out and work out the problem. But then the nice thing about encouraging the team interaction is that they can kind of put their heads together and compare answers. So anyway, this is a tool that's very versatile. It can be used any way you want. I'll just go ahead and start with the 6 teams. So you've got a little scoreboard down here along the bottom where you can keep track of points or whatever. I usually didn't have like physical rewards for students. We just had the celebration of getting the points and celebrating that we learned something. So, and had a little bit of fun. But the way that this works is I would just use like my student calling cards or a randomizer to call on students. They would get to pick where they would want to go on the game board, just like Jeopardy. I was never really strict about making sure they answered the question in Jeopardy style, you know, saying what if or what is or. So in this example, the student could say, I want no more tax for 100. So you click on it and the question pops up. Jose traveled to Florida to visit family. While in Florida, he bought a t-shirt priced at $25. The sales tax in Florida was 6%. How much was the tax charge for the shirt? So I would read the question. It would also be projected up on the screen. So students can read it, they can process it, they can work together as a team to solve. And so then after you've given the right amount of wait time and work time, you can hit the space bar to get your answer. Students usually are like celebrating or tweaking or fixing. At this point, any team that got it right, you can just calculate the points that they got down there on the bottom, and then to continue, as it says up here, you just press escape and you can go on to your next question. This is a strategy that, I mean, student engagement was really, really high when I used this. Students loved Jeopardy Day. I just noticed that even students that would normally just sit and space off in a lecture were really engaged in this process. And I used it across multiple subjects. So if you're doing a review unit in social studies, it takes a few minutes to create the board game. So you're probably looking at 15 to 20 minutes to do the data entry of your questions. But if you have like a study guide ready to go that you can just kind of do data entry with and plug it into this Jeopardy template, it makes it a really fun and interactive way to review content with your students. So that's one other engagement strategy that we wanted to share. You'll see that the link is in the presentation if you'd like to go see for yourself. The other thing that I just put here as a resource for you in case you'd like to go and read it yourself, this was an article that I stumbled across that had 14 pretty quick and easy strategies to increase student engagement. So that's just a resource that's there for you if you'd like to take a closer look. All right, moving on. This is another tool that could also boost student engagement, but it's a resource that's available to educators here in Douglas County. It's called Oregon Connections. And if you're willing to explore a new resource and maybe spend a little bit of time getting familiar with it, Oregon Connections has a lot to offer. It's a STEM-based platform, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics. It's a STEM-based platform that is like a match.com between industry professionals and educators, and it really can help bring careers and subject matter alive in the classroom. So I'm gonna, in just a second, I'm gonna click over and kind of show you guys the website. But before we do that, I was gonna let you guys know that one of the features that I'm gonna show you is an industry chat, in which a business or industry will do a live session where any students or any classrooms can sign up to participate in this live virtual session. And it's about industry and careers, and all of the sessions are just a little bit different. But the STEM Council for Oregon has actually organized Oregon World of Work Week. They're calling it WOW Week, and it's going to be December 10th through 14th. And so there is going to be a ton of Oregon-based companies that are offering virtual industry chats to students on a variety of different topics. I'm just going to click over here in a minute and show you some of those. To create an Oregon Connections account, it takes about 5 minutes or less. It comes with a free membership, which it gives you access to try out one virtual industry chat. And then there's also a video library of all the sessions that have been recorded so far that you can have access to for free. The paid memberships are $99 a year, and those get you full access to the website, which would include the all virtual industry chats, the video library, and then there's actually a feature where you can request a session with a professional one-on-one for you and your students. So I know that that sounds a little bit daunting, hearing that it's $99, but some of you might have heard of the Umpqua Valley STEAM Hub. It is our local STEM collaborative, and their goal is to provide support to educators and schools in Douglas County, and we actually have licenses and funding available to provide you with that $95 or the $99 subscription. So if you see this resource and it catches your interest at all, please reach out to me for more information. I can get you set up with a virtual or a pre-platinum license, and I can also get you some training resources if this is a platform that you think you'd like to use in your classroom. This is a resource that could potentially be valuable for some of you that teach multiple subjects, or some of you that are in, like I'm thinking of our ag teachers. This is a really great support to like career and technical education, and there's a lot of resources here for careers in some of those technical and career education classes. So down here at the bottom, there's a link to one of my favorite videos. If I have time, I'll link over to it and show you, but it's a really cool example of how the tool can be used. So now that I've rambled on about all of that, I'm going to jump over to the website and just show you a quick preview of it. So I'm signed in. Like I said, it takes about 5 minutes to sign up for an account. I'm going to go to my dashboard. And you'll see here, this is the dashboard. They've kind of tried to make almost like a Netflix style of interface. So there's going to be recommended videos. As you start to use the platform more, like it'll remember what you do and start making suggestions, kind of like Netflix does. But the main thing that I wanted to show you is up here where it says session. It gives you the opportunity to look at virtual industry chats. You could request your very own personalized session, which is a little bit trickier. That might require a little bit more time and training. And then there's also the video library as well. So I'd like to show you the virtual industry chat feature. If you sign up for an account, you get one free virtual industry chat. And so if any of these spark your interest and the time works out for you, it might be worth signing up and taking a look. So you can see that there's 43 upcoming scheduled virtual industry chats. If if it doesn't fall if you're a secondary or middle school teacher and it doesn't fall during the class time that you need it to, that's a little bit of a frustration. So you wouldn't necessarily be able to show it live if the time of the virtual session didn't fit in with your class schedule. But all the virtual sessions all of the virtual industry chats are recorded and placed in the video library within a couple of weeks of when they were recorded. So if you see a session that really sparks your interest, you would be able to access it after the fact and show it to students at the convenience of your own time. So I'm just going to do kind of a quick scan down. You could go to the website and check this out for yourself. These are all of the upcoming industry chats by date. And as I scroll down closer to the 10th of December, we'll start seeing some plugs for the Oregon WOW Week. Here's one right here. What is a transistor? There's another one here about being a mechanical engineer. There's industrial engineering. And you'll see there's a bunch coming up for Oregon World of Work Week. This one was kind of cool. It's Ask Dr. Amy, a pediatrician. That might be a really cool session for a variety of ages or anyone interested in the medical field. So anyway, I don't want to spend a ton of time going over this right now, but I did want to show you this as a resource. It might take, like I said, it might take just a little bit more time to kind of get used to and see, but I have the ability to get training resources and platinum licenses into the hands of teachers in Douglas County. So if this sparks your interest, feel free to contact me for more information. I will show you very quickly the video library. So I just clicked on that, and my favorite video that I use in the training sessions for Oregon Connections is this one. This is like a middle school, either a middle school or upper elementary classroom, and they are having a one-on-one virtual chat with a PhD student in chemistry. So she goes through some really cool things. She has a great way of explaining like what she does and what it means to get a PhD, and then she does a really cool experiment for them. But so that's a great video example right there. And the other thing about the video library that's nice is you can browse by topic. So if you are looking for like some content that you want to share with your students on a unit that you're doing, there's a bunch of different recorded sessions on here. The other thing is that you can filter by subject content right over here, career cluster, and you can also filter by grade level. So if you're looking for something specific, you can look for those things. So if you want any more information about Oregon Connections and how it might be able to make its way into your classroom and into your teaching, please feel free to reach out to me. So, all right, another tip provided by our mentor team was just refocusing on classroom management during these crazy holiday seasons and trying to just tighten up what you're doing in your classroom management. So you might consider reviewing your classroom rules and procedures with students heading into the month of December, and don't hesitate to hold them accountable to that and enforce your consequences that you have determined in your classroom. Feel free to ask your mentor about classroom management strategies for this time of year that could be helpful and specific to the needs of your students in your classroom. If your school uses PBIS strategies or other like school-wide systems to reward students for positive behavior, feel free to utilize those during this time. Refresh that and try to reward as much positive behavior as possible. One thing that I always did during these like kind of frustrating times is I would look around the room and I would try to find a student that's doing something right and doing something that I had asked, and just verbally recognize that great behavior, call out on students for doing the right thing. Thank you, Joe, so much for following directions right away. I really appreciate that you got to work so quickly. Oh, Sue, thanks so much for staying on task even though your partner's trying to distract you. I really appreciate you doing what you're supposed to be doing. Sometimes that was effective not only for complimenting the student that was doing the right thing, but also it's a gentle reminder to the students that aren't, that you could get positively reinforced for doing the right thing. Just wanted to point you to a couple resources that are in our shared drive. Some of you saw the CHAMPS strategy at our summit in August. I think that this was shared with our year 2 teachers. But CHAMPS in the classroom is just a way to kind of like, it's a way to just clearly state your expectations for a given activity or a given lesson. So all of those resources are in the shared drive. That link seems to be taking just a little bit of time. So I'll see if that comes up. So I was able to find the CHAMPS materials in our shared drive. I know that some of our mentors are very experienced in CHAMPS and could give you like a crash course or a refresher, but as I mentioned before, it's basically a really good way to clearly communicate your expectations to students for a given activity. Some of these are ready to go charts that you could put up in your classroom, and if you look at this one right here, the PDF, each one of these would be printed out on a page, and then the way that you could use this is if you're looking, like say at the conversation part of CHAMPS, if you're going to be identifying with your students which voice should be used during this activity. Let's say it's an activity where you want to use table talk. I would just stick a sticky note right next to the bullet by table talk, and it would call students' attention that that's my expectation for noise level and for conversation. Going down to the help category, there might be a variety of ways depending on the activity that you would want them to get help. So you could review these, you could put a sticky note on the one that you expect from them, and it's just, as you get more used to using it, it's maybe like a 2-minute reminder before you begin an activity of what your expectations are of your students during that activity. So that's one that your mentors could go over with you if you'd like. Another idea that I'm just going to highlight really briefly, and if you want for more information, you could seek it from your mentor or you could reach out. One of my mentees and I are just about ready to launch the Self-Manager system. And so the Self-Manager system is based on the concept that students self-evaluate their own behavior, and as they consistently display behaviors and that are positive all the time, and they don't have to be reminded and they don't have to be corrected. They evaluate where they're at on kind of that scale, and after they master each of these behaviors regularly and they can manage their own behavior, they can earn a self-manager badge. And this is a resource I used to use in my school. It was a school ride program that we did through our PBIS. It works great for middle school and upper elementary. It also works, I think the youngest grade that we used it with was 2nd grade, so that's a great time to start. But what this does, the great thing about the self-manager system is a good chunk of your class might be self-managers already to begin with, and they're going to earn their badge pretty quickly, just because that's innately how they operate. For your middle hunk of students that are kind of on the fence with behavior, maybe sometimes they're doing the right thing and sometimes they're not. This is going to be a really great motivator for them to evaluate their own behavior and see some areas that they could be improving. And what it might do is just raise the bar for those kiddos that only struggle with a couple different behaviors. And so you might start seeing some really positive changes in that kind of like middle group that could go either way, either difficult behavior or on-task behavior. And then, of course, the disclaimer that I like to give with the Self-Manager program is that sometimes there are just going to be some students that are not really able to master all of these skills all at the same time and earn the Self-Manager badge. So that's one consideration that I always tried to keep in mind. I didn't want to discourage any students, and I didn't want students to feel that their worth was less because they didn't earn a self-manager badge. And so as a teacher, when I was using this program, I just tried to differentiate a little bit for my really high behavior students. And I kind of set up some individual plans and some individual goals on them to make progress toward self-manager status, and give them some celebrations along the way, even though they may not be earning that badge right away or maybe even at all. So this is a tool that if it sparks your interest, feel free to discuss it with your mentor or reach out to me to brainstorm some ideas of how it might be useful or something that can be customized for your room. The 2 templates that I've got in here so far are just like a basic self-manager form. And then I've also got, let's see if I can find it, a sample parent letter that you could quickly edit and send home for students that would be explaining what they were going to be doing. So I have a teacher that's just about ready to roll this out, and I'm really excited to see how it goes. And if that's something that you're interested in, feel free to explore more or talk to your mentor. So another classroom management tool that I just briefly wanted to point out is Classroom Dojo. I've seen this used in middle school classrooms, elementary school classrooms, all the way down to kindergarten. I haven't spent a lot of time enough in high schools recently to see whether or not teachers are using this at the high school level. But it's a really flexible tool, Class Dojo is, and It can be used to communicate with parents. It can be used to track student behavior. There's like a little toolkit that this app comes with that has all sorts of really cool tools in it. There's a random group generator, think, pair, share questions. There's a timer. There's a place where you can put up classroom directions. It works really well for any of you that have like a projector or like a smart board. One of the mentees that I work with uses ClassDojo frequently, and her students absolutely adore it. They love it. One of the things that I saw them doing last time I was in the room is they were doing an activity where they had to say, they had to write about what they were grateful for and then illustrate their paragraph. And so as students were completing their work, they were taking their iPads that they have in the classroom, and they were scanning a QR code that their teacher gave them, and they were taking pictures of their work, and they were scanning them and putting them onto their ClassDojo profile. And then their parents can also have the app at home, and so parents can see the student work, they can see what they're doing in the classroom. It's just a really, really cool app that has a lot of flexibility and a lot of features. This might be one that some of you are familiar with already, but some of you may not use it, have seen it before. So feel free to reach out to your mentor, or again to me if you have more questions about this. But from what I've seen in the classrooms that I've been in, it's a very user-friendly, intuitive tool that doesn't take a ton of time to get familiar with. I think it's one that you could just learn on the fly as well. It's pretty user-friendly. So this might be something that if you have a little bit of extra time and you want to take a look at it, it might just be a really helpful classroom management tool for you. So the final thing that I wanted to remind you guys about is that as you head into this last final stretch of December before winter break, you are definitely not alone. All teachers, whether they're new to the profession or experienced, will all struggle in the weeks leading up to break. When the busyness of your own life through the holidays combines with the busyness and excitement in the classroom, it can be really challenging. So just remember that veteran teachers and new teachers alike all have the same struggles when it comes to leading up to breaks like this. Kids just get really excited, or they get really nervous, or they have a lot of anxiety, and all of those things just kind of start bubbling over, and it can be really difficult to get through lessons and objectives and the normal workings of a classroom while your students are just kind of bouncing off the walls. So definitely reach out to colleagues for tips, advice, or even to appropriately vent when you need to. They might have an idea or a strategy to share, or they might just be able to give you a pat on the back and a boost of encouragement, or just a simple, just keep going. Don't hesitate to bring your mentor on board. Be honest. You can be honest with them about how you're feeling, and try to communicate to them how they might be able to support you. Consider asking them to come do like a fun holiday activity with your students, or maybe help you brainstorm some ideas to kind of refresh your classroom management or implement some of these strategies that you've seen today. So during our mentor meetings, it's been really fun to share let our mentors share what they've been seeing from their mentees so far this year. And I just want to let all of our new teachers know that your mentors think you're doing a great job. We've shared some really, really great stories with one another, and some really awesome examples of just watching teachers in their first year with the excitement and the joy of teaching. And we just get such pleasure out of supporting you guys and working with you and seeing you grow as educators. So just know you're doing a good job, and that your mentors come speaking very highly of you. So there's a couple resources that I just wanted to remind you that are available to you. We have our shared drive for beginning educators, all of the materials that we saw at our summit over the summer, and then all the materials from our webinars. And as we come across new things, we're adding new materials all the time. So that is a resource. The other resource that I wanted to point out to you is a mentor menu. And this is kind of cool. This was created by a mentor program over in Central Oregon, and it's just a menu of activities that mentors and mentees can do together. So if you have a chance to kind of glance at this and see if there's anything on here that you'd like to ask your mentor about, feel free to give them some guidance and some pointers. If there's something that catches your attention and you want to know more, or you want to do this activity together, feel free to just direct your mentor and let them know what you desire. So that is one more resource for you. And if you have any questions about today's content or any of what you've seen, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be more than willing to share some more resources or some follow-up resources. And again, I can answer questions on some of the specifics of Oregon Connections if that was something that sparked your attention. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you need something. I will be sending out this webinar to all of you. And as I mentioned before, my hope was that you were able to watch it at your own convenience. I do plan to send out a short Google form evaluation after the webinar. So if you could take a moment to fill that evaluation out and let me know, we'd love to know how helpful this webinar was, whether it was useful, whether it wasn't. So we just want to continue supporting new educators in Douglas County, and we're happy to be in this journey with you. So I hope you have a wonderful few weeks leading up to Christmas break, and I hope that you are able to get refreshed and rejuvenated over the break time and come back in January ready to hit the ground running. So take care, guys. Take care of yourselves and keep having fun in the classroom. Thanks.